Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today, for I think the third time, maybe the fourth, I'll have to look that up, is Mr. Chris Schweizer, who Shelley Bond recently called the lumberjack of comics. I think while we were on the air, I don't remember if that was recorded or not. You'll have to go back and listen to the episode, Chris. She's a big fan.
Well, I'm a big fan of her. She's fantastic, and she's got a Kickstarter running right now at the same time as well, which is the
Yeah.
the the uh, the
Subculture.
the subculture. I was like the Scene Kids book, but I forget the
I I
yeah.
I have been lucky enough to read both Subculture and Outlaw's Apprentice,
Mhm.
and that's why my pocketbook is going to be lighter in about 2 or 3 weeks as both of
well,
those campaigns finish.
I'm sure that we're both excited to hear it. So,
Which,
um,
which also I think lends payment to the idea that like PDFs getting out there hurt sales. I don't know that that's true.
I don't think so, and I think a part of
I
the
mean, I'm
thing,
not big on pirated comics,
yeah, but
but
I think
but 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 kind of like pirated music, it's like, are they being downloaded by people who were gonna buy them without reading them to begin with?
yeah, I think for the way that I see it is uh, and I do think this sometimes changes for big two stuff where you're trying to keep up with what Wolverine is doing, etc. But I think that for a lot of people, the physical object is as much a thing to be desired as is the experience of reading, and certainly not for
Yeah,
everybody. Um,
yeah.
but I my ignoring the PDF aspect entirely, I'm serializing Outlaw's Apprentice on Webtoons and my Patreon for free in
Yep.
both instances. And a
Right.
big part of that is feeling like I can charge enough on the books that I can make it financially feasible for me to continue working on this as my full-time
Right.
gig, because there have been, I am lucky in that it was always temporary.
Right.
But when I was really little, we were quite poor. And then when I was a young man, I was quite poor, and was not able to necessarily afford stuff. So libraries were essential to me. Friends lending stuff to me were essential to me. Being able to sit in a bookstore and read something was essential to me. And so making the work readable for free as much as possible is important to me, because I never want that price to be a hindrance to the ability to read it. Now, the ability to own it is another kettle of, I mean, like, if somebody wants to save every JPEG from Webtoons, like, go for it, man. That's fine. I've done that plenty of times.
Right.
But if they want a physical object of it, then they can. Then that gives them a chance to do that. And for the folks who are in a position to support artists and things along those lines, it gives them an avenue by which to continue seeing work that they hopefully like being produced by backing a physical aspect of it. And even with the digital stuff, I've got like a digital part on the Kickstarter that you get a PDF,
Right.
and it comes with a lot of the stretch goals. So like when you do that, you get a PDF of the sketchbook that comes with it. You get a tiered different versions of the book. So you'll have like a rough draft PDF, a pencils draft PDF, an inks draft PDF, so that if you're interested in process, if you want to learn how the sausage is made, that gives you an opportunity to do that. So even the
Well, and
digital side gives you some extras.
I will say, as the digital PDF that you sent me has about a third of it, I think, only
Probably, yeah.
penciled
I think the one when I
penciled
put
with
that
some
together, it
inks,
wasn't
but
done.
but not, it is always cool to see process stuff.
Yeah,
I am a big fan of that. Um, but I'll also add both the reminder for anybody who didn't know it, and the reminder for you that there are those of us who are like this, that like even if we reach the point where fitting more physical stuff in our house is difficult, like most of us, and those who don't, I'm informing, understand that writers and artists need to eat. So when we're poor and the only way to read it is with a PDF or on Webtoon or whatever, then that's what we do. But like, you made it available on Webtoon. I didn't cancel your Patreon. I'm
Yeah,
still giving you, whatever a month that I was
yeah.
giving you before because I want to give Chris Schweizer that much a month. Now, Kyle sends me stickers for that.
Now I do have a mail out tier. So my
I
$10
know you.
tier, people get paper figure sets and
I know,
art
I
prints
know.
and
I
things like
keep
that.
thinking
I'm
about
not
it, but
I'm not asking for
those,
10. I'm just saying I do have a
those
mail
are
out tier, but it's higher than
no, no,
Kyle's.
no. It's both higher than Kyle's and like the paper figure sets, as cool as they are, that's when we start getting again into the I only have so much
Yeah.
space.
Well, and here's the thing, Tad, and
A
so
sticker I
people,
can slap on a water bottle
yeah.
or a computer or a comic box.
Well, people are listening to this. I can see your place behind you, and all I see is a lot of nooks and crannies where you could cram more stuff. Like you've got a door frame there. You could put a shelf above
I
that and
do.
put paperbacks.
I do.
You
I
could.
do. I
I,
mean,
I
that's how I fit my record table into the room.
yeah. Look at that. I seriously have. I keep thinking. Well, I no longer have any space in which to cram stuff, and I will figure out a way to put another shelf in there to build a little outlaw, etc.
Your wife is probably a little bit kinder about how many shelves you can put up.
Now, here's the thing: I do not. So part of what makes our we've got some fire trucks running past. We the studio is the upstairs of the house is my studio, and that is where I have complete agency to keep adding shelves and
Okay.
furniture and things along those lines and dangling bits and all that stuff. And the downstairs is largely her purview, and there are
Gotcha.
a ton of shelves in there. Like we built the whole hallway is like built-in shelves, and there's some in our bedroom, but like the living room just well, it's sort of got shelves. There's a lot of shelves. Um,
There should be bookshelves in every room. I'm a strong believer of that.
yes,
My
but
grandmother, my
I don't I
grandmother
don't
had
keep adding
bookshelves in her
things.
bathroom.
Yeah, I think that's great. I don't
Yeah.
I don't keep adding things in the sections of the house that are hers to dictate their general aesthetic.
Okay.
I will push for them, and
You will
occasionally
happily
I'll
jump in
make
the
something, but
second she even
yeah,
kind of approves.
yeah. But most of the time, anyway, my
Has,
my point being,
has,
with some people, you've got tiny apartments. I've got friends in
right.
cities who have, I mean, like 400 square foot apartments. You can't fit a lot of books in there. I understand it, but a lot of people, yeah, you just keep building
Oh
shelves.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I'm like that. You're just seeing my bedroom.
Yeah.
I have books in other places. Um, yeah, no, like you like the carpenter is as apt as the lumberjack. So I have to ask, like, just
Mhm.
because I know you and the way you work, has there ever been a time where your wife just barely gave approval, and by the time she came home from the grocery store, you were like practically done?
Sometimes I have my first do it without her approval, which is we have sort of a recess off of the living room, like by the front door, that theoretically probably would be a coat rack or something, but we had bins where our DVDs were in there, and I thought, well, we need to have a shelf, and so we were uh, back and forth thing where I thought, well, I could build a shelf and put it in here, and she was insistent that the DVDs wouldn't fit, and I was like, but if I do this mechanical one that has these three tiers of shelves that fold out and pull, and you can move them, then and so it's three deep in the recess, then you could do it. And she was not having it, and I did build them on the sly, and then was like, "Look what we've got. Do we want to do it?" And she was like, "Fine." And so I don't think she was as happy with that one. but generally speaking, no, everything
Yeah,
is
I'm not trying to get
cleared.
you in trouble,
No,
Chris. I want
no,
to make
that's
that
okay.
really, really clear.
Yeah, I am really happy with how those turned out. I would have done some things differently, and I still can adjust how they'll be done differently. But as a
I,
space saver slash whatever, they're great, and they're
I,
largely invisible to the
right. I
area.
just know how your ADHD goes, and Kyle calls it your work avoidance.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like right
Let me build a
now,
podium for the library books rather than taking a
yes.
picture on my phone.
Well, and right now I am actively not doing that because so
Okay.
work avoidance is during the writing phase, and it's not because I don't enjoy the writing, but it's because it is tricky to maintain. It's not so much the energy; it's just the ability to get a certain amount done in terms of plotting and character and dialogue and roughing it out. So those are the phases where I tend to take on a lot of additional projects where
Right.
I am uh, figuring stuff out and I'm letting it ruminate. And so I'm building this thing, I'm making that thing. And right now, like, so for the past maybe 4 months or so, I have only been doing work stuff, like no weird hobby things, no building additional stuff. It's only been sitting down working on pages because at this point, the uh, first book is entirely written, or I've started using the term composed because that
Right.
suggests also
That makes
that the
sense.
pages are done. So the last 30 pages or so that you saw of the book, or 50 pages or however many it was, um, are that's a composed page. So that is a page. The drawings are in there. They are a little bit rough, but they, you know where they are, you know what the composition is, you know how they interact with the text, along with the text. It's all one
Right.
thing.
Right.
And so the first book is completely done so far as that goes. The second book is halfway done. It's going to be a
Right.
significantly longer book, probably about 350 pages to the first book,
Nice.
200. Um, and so now it's just doing the final art. And when I'm doing the final art, I can just do that. And that's all I want to do. I want to sit down and just do the final art. And so doing any additional stuff, I've got some freelance stuff that I'm doing. I mean, small, very small projects, but ones that
Right.
I have committed to. And they're things I enjoy, but not as much as I want to be doing Outlaw. Um, but aside from those, like Outlaw's all I'm doing. And then, trying to chip away at Patreon commissions that have backed up.
I mean that happens when you work as often
Hmm.
as you do. Um, yeah, it makes sense to me that you do more project. I mean, I know when I write that sometimes my writing it looks like doing other stuff because I need to noodle in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And if I sit down to the blank page or even the not so blank page, I almost put too much attention to it. Like
Yeah.
I need to be able to just shunt it to one area while also focusing on something else to work out knots, etc. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm also really impressed that you can control yourself when it's time to draw. Um, I don't always have the ability to just switch on the okay, this is where I'm going to lock in for
Well,
multiple
and
days, weeks,
yeah,
whatever.
well, part of it is that there isn't as much decision making going on, but the seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, even though, I mean, it's still months of work to do the final
Right.
art and the colors and everything like that. It is months of work that has, I know exactly what it needs to do. I know how I need to do it, and I know how what's going to happen when it's done, which is that then I have this physical object of this book and things along those lines. And doing Outlaw myself to where the book is going to be coming out, roughly 4 months, yeah, about 4 months after the uh, last bit of color is put on it, is really exciting compared to what sometimes happens when I'm working with a traditional book publisher, which is that it comes out a year later or a year plus later. And so knowing that, well, I can do this, I can also do the promotion, I can plan on doing a, signing in December to do release things semi-locally. I know I can do, a book tour in late winter, early spring. Like these are all things that kind of factor in and create, for lack of a better term, a reward for the doing of it.
Right.
And being able to have that reward imminently on the horizon, as opposed to sort of this nebulous thing that will happen eventually, makes it a lot easier to buckle down and really get at it. At least for right now. I'm planning on doing this continuously and serialized, and so there aren't going to be breaks between books. I probably take like a 6-week break between posting between books, but I'll still be
Right.
working on them. And so I won't be able to indulge my yearly, I just want to draw spooky stuff, or I just want to draw Christmas stuff, things to the degree that I have in the past. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, you just have to make them Outlaw's Apprentice spooky stuff
Yeah.
and Christmas stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, there are ways, Chris.
There are ways.
Before we get into talking about the story itself, because I definitely want to get into that, there are a couple more questions that I wanted to ask about production and then the Kickstarter. The first of which is, have you been setting yourself like a specific timetable for Webtoon and Patreon releases of chapters, or not really chapters, but segments? I mean, and has that been convenient for you in terms of driving your process?
It definitely pushes me to make sure that I stay ahead, which is good because, again, it's easy for me to defer my attention to other things. And so I'm releasing a chapter every Wednesday, and right now, or an episode. So sometimes, right now, they are pretty wildly variable in terms of length. I think this week's was one of the shorter ones at what essentially comes out to probably 7 pages. And then some of them, like the one 2 weeks ago, was, I think, like 22 pages. So sometimes, so right now it's all over the place. So generally speaking, I think going forward, it's as I'm writing more for serialization, I will be thinking in terms of segments with clear breaks, but really what I'm doing is I do I know, where I'm wanting the story to go and what I'm wanting to happen in the story. The how it happens is determined by how the page comes together as I'm working on it, like what the dialogue is, what's happening in that scene. And so a lot of times, basically, I will get to a point and I'll say, "Oh, that's an episode break," and sometimes those are spread farther across. Sometimes the beginning and end of that are longer than is convenient for the amount of work that has to be done for a weekly release. Sometimes they're just a smidge short of what I would like for them to be to make people feel like they got a satisfying reading experience. So probably my ideal would probably be the equivalent of 8 to 9 pages each week, and get to where I'm thinking in terms of story beats that kind of have that degree of length regularity. And I think the more that I do it, the more that it'll work. And one of the plus sides of doing it online versus doing it in print is I can have a wildly different length with each one, because they had a prison break scene recently, and had that been broken up into multiple bits, this action sequence, even though it's longer, it would have diminished the catharsis of having all this suspense building, or not suspense, but tension building. Knowing that there's going to be this action sequence, and then you have the action sequence. And if the action sequence had been broken up into 2 segments, it would be like having a fight scene with a commercial in the middle.
Right.
You don't want that. Like, you want it to be structured a certain way. So really, I'm kind of looking at it as almost like TV with commercial breaks, like as a
Okay.
more than I am looking at it with as like a comic release thing.
Gotcha.
Or at least that's how it feels, because it feels like you get to a beat and you know that this is a part where you can take a break. It's just that the breaks happen to be a week long. So sorry of that, but one guy
Yeah.
doing
No,
everything.
no. I mean, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be sorry. I mean,
Well,
like, I'm sitting here blown away, like, because I won't name names because in contrast, it would wind up making them sound lazy, and I don't think
mhm.
of them that way. But there have been many people who have serialized stuff to Patreon where like they've got a weekly dump, but that weekly dump is just whatever they've got done. It has no thought
Yeah.
towards story beats whatsoever. So it could
Yeah.
be a page, it could be 3 pages, it could
Yeah.
be six, you know.
And that is
And
fine.
you know
Like,
what?
yeah.
I'm totally cool with that because
Yeah.
that's not what I'm paying for. So the fact that you are thinking about all of the products that you put out is incredibly thoughtful and generous of you. And also, like, please never let it stress you.
No, no, and it's not. And I am really excited about. I did say, just one guy. My wife helps me out with flatting the characters, and that is
Okay.
hugely helpful for me. That shaves off
Right.
a lot of time overall. Probably 15 minutes a page, and that adds up
Right. Oh yeah.
considerably. Sometimes more than
I
that,
mean,
but
200
vastly.
pages,
Yeah.
we're talking 50 hours right there.
Yeah, so that's it's a lot. It's a lot of time that can be spent
That's
working on
that's
the better
a
aspects.
week's worth of work that
Yeah,
your wife put more. You paid
yes,
overtime.
yeah,
If she did it in a week, you gave her
yep,
10 hours of overtime. I hope you paid her appropriately.
yes. So, it is a lot of fun, and I do really like the idea of being forced to just sit and do it, because I I there's a lot that I want to do with this series, and most of the stuff that I really like, whether that's Bone or Sagio Jumbo or whatever, a lot of the, Corto Maltese, a lot of it was built on this regular publishing schedule that
Right.
and you have the quantity that you have, which is great. Like, if I sit and work on, I've sat and worked on this for like 5 years. Like, I know what I'm wanting to do with this. Like, I figured out all the stuff probably that needs to be figured out, and the rest of it, like, now it just needs to be done. And so, it's not going to get any better if I sit and dwell on it. And I can also always go in and change minor things when I move from web release to print. I won't be doing that with the first book. It's possible I may going on, but everybody did. Jeff did that with Bone.
Right.
It's little things that you're like, I could have done this a little bit better, or this face is
Oh
wonky,
yeah.
or I accidentally called this character by the wrong name, or whatever it might be.
One of the fun things about reading Love and Rockets and its different iterations is figuring out where they added a page here,
Yeah,
very occasionally subtracted something or changed, they do way more adding than
yeah.
changing, but
Well,
like
and it'll be
every
different
edition
from the
has tinkering.
yeah. Well, and it'll be different in the web release, but the PDF that you have now, actually, the final version will have a different page, which I composed last night, or will
Okay.
have an extra page,
Right.
because I felt like there were a couple of things that I don't mind leaving unfinished, or I don't mind leaving unanswered questions. I do mind uh, feeling like I forgot something. And
Right.
so, Erska wakes up with she's been clobbered in the head, and she's got, a splitting headache slash possible concussion. And at a certain point, I stop addressing that, and it needs to be noted that the activity is lessening the effects of that, and
Right.
a couple other things. But it's like
Right.
but I was like, there's not really a panel to work that in. All of the dialogue,
Right.
as I at least so far as I can do the dialogue, like I don't want you to
Right.
ever feel like you can just slip in a panel with a little bit, because each line should naturally lead into the next line,
Absolutely.
and so it's kind of
Absolutely.
tricky to find like how to work that in. And so I
Had
found
to
a place
add a
to work it in,
scene.
but it required a whole extra page with other
Right.
stuff to build around it, like a little
Right.
carrot.
Right. Um, that's fascinating. And having her work through the concussion is near and dear to me because I think I talked to you at least once during the time that I was recovering from my
Mm-hmm.
concussions. So I know my concussions
Yeah.
all together too well. Um,
And I read Sarah Polly's memoir, which is called "Run Towards the Danger." I think it's something like that, and a big chunk of it is her dealing uh, with a concussion, and basically how how activity and makes it, lessens the severity of it, despite feeling like you need to rest. Um,
yeah.
and so
And it
I don't
is
know.
called it is called Run Towards the Danger.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but uh I was gonna bring up a couple of your upcoming um stretch goals that
Mhm.
are near and dear to me and pose a quick question because
Yes.
it's something that could be added to get you to these stretch goals sooner,
Mhm.
that wouldn't be more work for you. I know better than to add things that require more work. But first of all, I love that the next stretch goal is an educator's guide.
Mhm.
And then the final stretch goal is um, Kentucky libraries. If you hit 40,000 uh, dollars, you're going to give a copy to each public library in Kentucky and offer them to all the middle schools and high schools. Which, as an educator, both of those things are near and dear to me.
Mhm.
Um, so my suggestion is, uh, a lot of books that I back. I think it was Andrew Iden that I noticed it with first, but it's something that I toss out to people now. Um, have like the add-on of buy a copy for a library or the organization of your choice.
Oh,
So
oh,
so you could make it so people had the option to help you offset those
that
costs.
is really interesting. Well, the Kentucky one, like I budgeted that into the thing, like that's unexpected. But if you wanted a non-Kentucky library, that's a really great idea, Tad.
Well,
I like that a lot.
but regardless, it would
Yeah,
offset the costs because if they name a library, then you're sending it to that library, but whatever
yeah.
went towards the budget is getting you towards
Yeah, no, that's
40,000.
that's really smart. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think,
Um,
like I mentioned before, like a lot of my reading was done at or because of the library. And that isn't to say that we didn't have a ton of books at home. We always had a ton of books at my house, but we didn't always have
the
uh
one you wanted now.
well, yeah, and we didn't always have contemporary, but like
Right.
I was never lacking in toys. I was never lacking in books. I was sometimes lacking in whatever was immediately available at the time. Like
Right.
I rarely had the new toy that other kids had, or video
Right.
games, or things along those lines. But
You were on top of the library sales and garage sales
oh,
and
absolutely, yeah,
whatnot. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of
I
and a
lived a
lot of my
lot of
toys
that
came from,
childhood too.
yeah,
Right.
came from garage sales, and they were great, and I loved them, and I would
Absolutely.
not change
Yeah.
a thing about it.
No.
But I think that trying to do what I can, especially like our library, my wife and I are both involved in our local public library. I do a graphic novel club with the teens and young adults sometimes. My
Oh, that's
wife is
amazing.
president of the board of trustees. I've been president of
I
the
want
Friends
to
of the
come down
Library.
for your graphic novel
I've
club
been,
now.
I've
Just be a
been.
fly on the wall.
It's really fun. We've had a great time with it. So what we've done today, and we haven't done a ton of them, but we'll pick a book and we'll read it based on, do I know the person who wrote it? And then we'll do like a Skype call with that cartoonist afterwards, and so the
Right.
kids can ask questions and things like that. So we've done like Monster or Monstrous with Sarah Meyer. We've done Hello Sunshine with Keezy Young.
Right.
We're gonna do the Sweaty Palms anthology with Liz Enright and Sage Coffee, who were the editors. And so like
Right.
it's anyway, it's a neat thing. But like but I say this to say that our library, like our librarians do a great job. Our library director is absolutely fantastic and has done some wonderful stuff. I know every library is underfunded. We are, I think, one of the worst funded libraries in the state. We are one of two or three counties that do not have a tax base for our library. It's pretty much exclusively discretionary
Right.
municipal spending year to year. And so, other places have that. So anything we can do to give them a leg up, is great. And so,
Yeah.
there's a degree of self-serve to say, well, you can have my book because then people are reading the book. But it's also that's what I have to give. So
Right.
hopefully we'll reach that spot where I've got an extra few $1,000 and we can send those out.
I am in favor of it, and like I've already backed this, but if you added that add-on, you would get more of my money.
I will look at doing that because I think that's a really good idea.
And I would also wind up plugging that add-on because
Yeah.
it's one that I like. We recently had um the editors of a fantastic anthology called Nerd Emergencies on,
Mhm.
which is all about neurodivergent coping mechanisms. In fact,
Mhm.
the nerd emergencies came from the fact that one of their phones liked to autocorrect neurodivergent to nerd emergency. um And that was the first thing I said. I'm like,
Yeah.
why isn't there a tier to give this away? Like
Yeah.
to libraries, to whatever. I mean,
No,
hell,
I think that's
for
a really good idea, Chad. I
for
like that a
for
lot, and
for those of us who are
yeah.
neurodivergent, the option to send it to the parent that just doesn't understand yet.
Yes. Well, we'll crunch the numbers today, and when Liz gets home,
Yeah.
and we'll look and
I
see
mean,
so that it's not additional shipping. That's the main thing because we
right,
could send it directly to the library,
right,
so it might run, excuse me, um, maybe $1 or $2 more
right,
than a regular copy, but you're not paying additional shipping for it. I
right.
I like that idea. I think
Yeah,
that's really neat.
yeah. Just because, like, I know that there's a lot of people that like.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember actually the most interesting one that I've seen is Ronald Wimberly on the uh, last issue of Lab that he did.
Hmm.
Um, did what he called the barbershop tier, where I think it was like I forget it was $100 or $200, and he'd send 20 copies of it to
Hmm.
literally whoever you wanted, your local
Yeah.
barbershop, your local school,
Oh, I love it.
anybody
That's
you
great.
think that might like this.
Yeah.
And that I don't know if you've seen Lab, but it's set up on like newsprint and fold over.
Yeah.
So like the 20 copies is different from setting 20 copies of your
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
obviously.
But no, but even so, and there are a couple of people that have ordered a lot of extra copies that they're intending to give out to people, and I am
Right.
incredibly grateful
Right.
uh, for the folks that are doing that. But I've also,
Right.
I had to promote it last night because I don't think people saw it. I don't have a retailer tier
Okay.
because I don't think that you can choose the order in which your tiers appear. I think it's just numerical by how much they cost.
I think
And
so.
so I feel like it would confuse regular customers to have get 20 copies for your store in between two of the normal tiers.
Right.
And so I do have retailer bundles, but they are an add-on as opposed
Okay.
to a tier. And
Okay.
so just
That's
trying to
good
make
to
sure
know.
that people know about that kind of thing, I think is helpful.
The one thing that annoys me about Kickstarter is that it's hard to see what the add-ons are except when you are
Have already backed.
right
Yeah.
or managing your pledge. It'd be really
Yes.
nice if there was a way to have the add-ons more readily available to go,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna buy this one and add that and add that and add that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you may only want two things, and not, you may want an add-on instead of another tier,
Right,
where that add-on is available. And I tried to make
right,
it where the tiers, if you're going to get a better deal on any of the things, like it makes more sense to just get a higher tier than it does to add on any of the individual things
right,
on the tier. But,
right.
still, people want to do what people want to do, and I want to give them
That's
as
right.
many options as possible.
Or maybe they want the sword, but they don't want, I mean, the
Yeah.
sword I think is sold out now,
Well, yeah, and
but
that one wasn't an add-on. That one's just
right.
strictly for the
But
the
but
thing.
in a general sense, maybe they want okay, maybe they want the original art, but not the desk edition,
Yes. Yeah,
or
and those upper ones, like the extra things, like because Kickstarter, you can edit up the number of tiers available. Like you can say, well, I had 100, now I'm making 105. You can't edit down, and so
okay,
I can't make things like the original art, which has a finite number, or the swords, which have a
right,
finite number, as add-ons, because if somebody ordered five extra things, then suddenly I can't offer those five extra or those
right,
five tiers, and I can't delete them. Like I can't
right,
change how many there are.
right.
So that's something that I would love. I would love it if that were available, and I can kind of understand why they would prevent
No,
doing that
no. I
because
mean, it
yeah.
makes sense to not be, I mean, and again, I chose two bad examples for
No, no, it's okay. But if you
thank
wanted the
you for
drawing desk edition,
clarifying
but
for
not the
listeners.
other, yeah, if you wanted the drawing desk edition, but not the any of the other stuff and the book,
Yeah, you
you
want the
could.
drawing desk, but not the sketchbook.
Yes, you could
That's the one to
theoretically
look
get
at
just those two things for $5 less
than the
than if you
Outlaw
got that
edition.
tier.
Right.
And but you're getting a lot less. You're also getting no prints. You're getting the
Right.
anyway. Yeah. So
Yeah. No, I mean it
it's
like
it's
again.
pretty like it's mostly there, but I would like it because some people might just want the drawing desk edition, and it will
Right.
be available commercially afterwards. Like I'll make the drawing
Okay.
desk edition for anybody listening. The drawing desk edition is basically an at size black and white reproduction of the original art, the pencils and the roughs. For I think at this point I'm planning on doing 75 pages for each book. And so it'll be about 200-ish pages total,
Says
spotlighting these different
approximately
things.
180 pages.
Yeah, and so because I'm working relatively small, um, like I'm working at about 8.5 by 14, and the live area a little bit smaller than that. Um, I can reproduce these without it having it is just under the inch amount where like you jump from can print it for a reasonable amount to can print it, but you have to charge $200 for it. And
Gotcha.
so like that wasn't by design. That was just
It's
when
just
I was
dumb
when I
luck.
was doing my test pages. I knew I wanted to do this mass market paperback format, and so I was doing a lot of test pages early on to see what how small could I letter before I lose control of the lettering,
Okay.
and like what size did I need to work where the reproduction looked good at that mass market size.
Right.
And that was what I found. It's basically, I think it's probably 7 by 12 and a half live area, something
Okay.
like that. Um, somewhere in that range. So anyway, so there will be a scan of the inks with the pencils visible underneath them, and then also just a slightly smaller version of the pencils themselves and any annotations or changes that might have been made digitally. Because although I'm doing everything on paper, I am sometimes fixing stuff digitally. Either a character doesn't look the way that I'm like, their eyes are too close together, or this hand looks funny or something. So if I make adjustments, I'll have a little inset that showed what that adjustment was between the original and the digital, and then I'll fit like 3 roughs to a page
Cool.
in smaller so that you can see like how that page was composed. Because I really like, I love process stuff. Like I get the artist
Oh yeah.
editions, I get artist sketchbooks. I've got way too many French black and white editions and portfolio facsimiles and things along those lines. And I assume other people like those as much as I do, and so I wanted to make that available.
Well, I mean, Scott Dunbier keeps being able to put them out and
Yeah.
win awards for them. So I'm assuming that you're
No,
not
they're
alone.
great, and mine are not going to be anywhere near as fancy as Dumbeer's. Like
Right.
mine is going to be paperback. Mine is going to be like
No, I
all
get it.
my I I understand collector mentalities, and I want people to be able to collect stuff. Like, but for me personally, I like feeling like I can beat up my books. And so I want to make them in an edition, like, and down the road, who knows, I might do something fancy with stuff, but
Right.
generally speaking, I want it to be something you can treat like, the artist edition type thing, or the drawing desk edition. Like, I want it to feel like something you can use like a textbook. Like, you can look at it.
Well, and as a teacher with teachers
Yeah.
pay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it also makes it more affordable to be able to do
Right.
that. Like, where I had to do it with a hardcover, I'd have to charge
I mean,
considerably more.
I own very few artist editions thus far because they're a stretch.
Yeah,
They're a stretch. So they
they
have to
are.
be like I have more absolute editions than art editions because
Yeah.
I'm enough of a reader that like it's easier to make that stretch to just have the bigger,
Yeah.
but I'm enough of a reader that like I won't always do the stretch to
Yeah.
process without the reading
Yeah.
experience.
Well, none of the books that I have do I have because they are rare or because they are um of a certain quality. Like, I want all of them to look at and read. And
Oh
so
yeah.
the more expensive it is, the less I feel like I can treat it like a book. And so that does make it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, so I'm having, but that's, again, it's one of the great things about being able to do this myself, is that I've got the agency to say, oh, I want to do an
do it
original
this
art
way.
edition. I want to
Right.
do a sketchbook. I want to do this thing, and not have to, and know when everything's coming out, how it's coming out,
Right.
how I'm going to print it. Like, it's really nice having that. And I mean, and it's extra
And
work, of
10
course.
years down the road, after you've
Yeah.
sold either the movie rights or the TV series, that's when you'll put out the really nice
Yeah.
hardbound editions.
And that could
Before,
be a thing where I don't even necessarily do that myself. That could be a thing where, like,
right.
maybe they're licensed to somebody to do
Yeah, you let somebody else do the hard work.
Yeah.
And just
But
pay
I
you.
but I do really, yeah, but I and different folks have asked, like, well, do you want it to get picked up by a publisher, and not for the foreseeable future? Like,
Right.
I am really excited to be doing this
Well,
myself,
you're
because I am a control guy, and I also, like, I I will, every part of it feels like part of the whole. And so the way that the book looks, the way that it comes out, what it comes
right.
out with, like, all of those things feel like part of the story to me as well. And so to have control over that in a way that I haven't with previous
Right.
projects, like, is Oh,
I
it's a
mean,
delight.
you're following in some cool footsteps. That's how Bone did it. That's how
Hmm.
Strangers in Paradise did it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real history of self-published comics, both because the creator believes in them more than any publisher does, and
Yeah.
because the creator wants to do it a certain way that they
Yeah.
can't. So um, I support that across the board because your
Yeah.
aesthetics are always amazing. Now, we've done this completely backwards. We've talked all sorts of craft and publishing stuff, and we still haven't actually talked about the book itself.
Mhm.
So give me the front counter pitch for Outlaw's Apprentice, Broken Blade. Oh,
So basically, it is the first book in this fantasy series, and it is part of the reason I'm doing it myself is that I really wanted to do a series, and publishers are, at least book publishers are, a little shy of doing series right now, and uh, I really wanted to do a very action adventure oriented fantasy that also reflected my culture, which is rural hillbilly, in the same way that Anglo-Saxon stuff influenced Lord of the Rings, or
right,
that you know Polish and Central European stuff influenced The Witcher. Like I feel like there is a lot of history and culture and folklore and personalities and things along those lines that could lend themselves very well to a fantasy setting from the southeastern U.S. and Appalachia specifically, and I really wanted to see that reflected in a story. And this is basically it's a chance to take all of that stuff that I love and all the history that I've researched and things along those lines, but put it in a bag and shake it up and make something new.
right,
And so that's the general timbre of it, but timbre of it. But the story is that there is a kid who is outlaw, or excuse me, who is apprenticed to a former mercenary. He wants to be an artisan, and they intervene on behalf of somebody they see being treated badly, and subsequently find themselves on the wrong side of some powerful folks and outlawed. And the overall, so the first book is basically like this, you know, this happening to them and how they get out of it, and then the rest of the series is them basically making their way across their country to try and get a pardon from a crooked judge who owes the former mercenary a favor. And sort of helping people along the way, getting into scraps along the way, that kind of thing. And so it gives me a chance to do what is my favorite genre, which is I've heard recently described as "guy comes to town and leaves," or I've always called it, stranger comes to a town imperiled, which is leverage. It's Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's Have Gun Will Travel. It's Wanted Dead or Alive. TV's The Incredible Hulk. That
right.
those Xena largely falls into that category. That sense of like you're traveling, you come into a place, there's a problem, you help solve the problem with violence, uh, and that's a lot of fun to me. So this gives me a chance to do that.
Right.
I need to
Right.
come up with a better elevator pitch because that's
Well, I
long.
mean, we'll get there. We'll get there.
That's a
I'll
broken
help you with
elevator.
it. I'll help you with it. I mean, because like, I mean, something that like a teaser that you gave away is they're in trouble because of one corrupt judge and going to another corrupt judge. Um, and I kind of love that dichotomy.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
because one of the thing, I mean, one of the things that really stuck out to me, we talked about it, or I touched on it before we went on air, is like the layers of this book. Like
mhm.
what jumped at me is like at its heart, it's it's an adventure tale, and it's, YA, maybe even middle grade adventure tale. You don't have to look deeper, but it's also a allegory for how even when you have a system of justice that is supposed to be equal for all, the rich and powerful can find ways to augment the system.
Yes.
I really appreciated that it wasn't even that, oh, we're gonna flagrantly break the law. We're just changing the law so that it allows us to flagrantly break what you thought was the law, but is no longer the law because we changed the law because
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is regardless of what the law is and the degree of equality to which it purports to endow the folks under its umbrella. Um, it really, if it is unequally applied or if its principles are subverted or things along those lines, then it doesn't really do people much good, like what it is. And I think
Right,
that is largely, the history of the U.S. is that we've
right.
got
Well, I was going to
theoretically a
say,
system that grants equality to all and rarely does. And I think
right,
and so that to me is far more, I wouldn't say interesting, but it resonates with me far more than does something like who's going to sit a throne.
right,
Like how do you deal with that place where the principle of law and the practice of law diverge and
right,
diverge so spectacularly.
right.
Um, and so yeah, so to me, like that, I actually kind of figured that out before I started figuring out the story. Like once I figured
Okay.
out what their basic government system was and how it might be subverted in favor of a few, uh, immediately put all the other pieces into play for me.
And mind you, not in a way that we haven't subverted our government, because it 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 looks a lot like mediated settlements to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing is like some of the stuff I'm like, well, if you yeah, if you take yeah, like what happens when you put mediated settlements
Right. Well, and
into
I
a
bring
fantasy
this
world
up,
and then see like can you use that principle to circumvent law more fully, like
and I actually bring this up in part because, like, I don't know. Appalachian history and really Appalachian present is something that I've only started diving into.
mhm.
Um, I started with I don't know if you got to see Andrew Iden put together his collection of um
The
hurricane,
hurricane relief stuff. Yeah.
right, the islands in the sky.
Yes.
And I had him on, and like he painted a great picture, and then I got to read that. But he also had me go read Barbara Kingsolver's Demon
Demon
Copperhead, and I'm like,
Copperhead. Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
There's this whole, and I found myself thinking of Demon Copperhead a lot while reading this, because it's
Hmm.
like, oh, so when he says he's taking Appalachian history, he's not just talking about the folklore, he's talking about the ways they sometimes get screwed right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and it's and that's been a consistent thing, like from the initial, or at least the initial Euro settlement of what would become West Virginia and
Right,
Western North Carolina and things like that. Like there has always been uh, a lot of resentment by moneyed interests towards sustenance farming.
right,
The idea that, well, there are resources available to you that you are not wholly exploiting, and if you what's wrong with
Well,
not fully exploiting every resource? Like
yeah,
if you can
let's
live
be
in
really, really
community. Yeah.
realistic here. They're like, there are resources on your land that we would like to exploit better.
Yes. Yes,
And
exactly.
you aren't working for us at the prices that we want because
Yeah.
you have this sustenance farming. So we need to do something about that.
Yeah. And so a lot of so the first book has a little I mean the first book sort of is setting up the scenarios in which this can be more dramatically done, but each subsequent book, not all of them, but a lot of them are borrowing from a lot of for lack of a better umbrella term, labor history in Appalachia. So
Okay. Oh,
um
so
so
I
the
am now. I was like 1,000% on board because it was Chris Schweizer and swords.
uh
And now I'm like so much more on board. It's not even like I can't even. You're getting into labor history
Yeah, well,
with
the
swords.
third book is sort of
I love
effectively
it.
Madawan in a labor camp with swords,
I
or
love it.
excuse me, in a logging camp with swords.
Love
Uh,
it.
but yeah, but I mean, it's I think that, and you see those parallels in a lot of other stuff. Like there are similar things in westerns where you have cattle barons like locking off areas or land barons or any kind of barons. Barons are always trouble. Uh,
Absolutely. But this is actually a place where comics are so valuable
mhm.
because like to really we I mean it can be woven into prose. I mean I just brought up Demon Copperhead. Like all of this was very well woven into prose. It can be done, but I know that there are also a lot of people that wouldn't have finished the book because they started to get into the parts where that was woven in, and it's like, oh no, I just wanted the happy story. Don't
Yeah,
give me the pharmaceutical companies.
yeah,
um and it can be done in movies, but in movies, because often of the pace, etc., it's easy to overlook that Young Guns is about like evil cattle ranchers as much as it's about
yeah,
Billy the Kid. Uh,
yes,
a comic book can have the things side by side,
hmm
and yes, you can still choose to ignore it, but you have to make that like conscious choice
well,
because you're also picking the pacing. So it doesn't take you too fast to go, oh, I just missed that part. and
yeah,
and it doesn't get so bogged down in details that you're like, oh well, I didn't think this was what I was reading. It becomes part of the setting, but
yeah,
as the characters relate to it, you have to think about it more. Like this is why I love comics as a medium, both fictional storytelling and when I mean Dirk Becker's The Dissidents is coming out
yeah,
soon, which is I guess it's historical fiction. It's got a fictional thread, but like it does that similar thing where it's like, oh, I have to think about this because it's relevant to this story that I'm reading.
yeah. Well, and that relevance I think is really important. Like trying to frame any of the, anytime there is world building or anytime there is discussion of stuff, trying to put it in a place where you can see its immediate consequence on the
Right.
characters as opposed to sort of being an abstract, I think is what makes it to where people aren't going to want to skip it, because
Right.
you know that if they skip this, like you don't know how the characters might get out of
Right.
it. Like there's there's
And
there's
and
got to
and
be
that's
maneuvering on their part.
that's where having the visuals is so important. I
Yeah.
mean, again, like I didn't mean to imply in any way, shape, or form that Barbara Kinscover didn't weave it really well.
No,
But
no, yeah,
but because you have to make your own visuals, it's easy for somebody, if they chose to go, well, she didn't need to add this. Why do I have to think about this?
yeah,
Whereas with a comic, it's more you have to choose the other way. Like I'm going to choose to ignore the injustice and focus on the character perpetrating the injustice.
yeah. Well, and
But it holds those things
yeah,
and opens those conversations. I mean, this is why I love the idea of a teacher's guide for this. And I love it even more for future ones because I feel like this one sets up a lot of questions, and the future ones might have great history stuff that can be put along with them.
Yeah, this one, the educator guide for this one will have less history specific stuff. It will
Right.
have, I think, active discussions of civics and,
Right.
I mean, in addition to the comic and literary stuff,
Right.
because I think that it's should any teachers want to use it in a classroom setting, the ideal is that, anything with fantasy or science fiction, it gives you an opportunity to discuss real world things without having to bring in the baggage of political allegiance.
Right. Right.
And so you can talk about stuff in principle form and in the abstract in a way that I think can be really helpful, in a way that you can get into
And helpful to
trouble
the
as a
students
teacher,
because it's less abstract because you're focusing on a
how it's
world.
affecting
It's
something.
not
Yeah.
our world.
Yes. And
Right.
so but I do think, yeah, with subsequent books, you can talk about, like in the second book, uh, there's stuff with a dam, there's stuff with the sort of uh, uh, company towns. There's stuff with
Right.
how the notion of eminent domain for private enterprise. Like there's a lot of stuff that I think you could discuss in terms of like what its historical precedents are.
Right.
Um, but also, just the sense of like how comics work, vocabulary. Like there's a lot of stuff you can pull from with all of them. I found
Right.
my old guide for Krogan's Loyalty when I was talking about it, and I was like, man, you could run a whole quarter off of the stuff in here, just because, not so much because of the book, but because um the ideal would be to give you different factors that you can talk about, for like both how to make your own comics, how to talk
Right.
about things that are important to you, how to what does this word mean, like why is this character acting this way while saying this thing, like what is
Right.
there a disconnect between the emotion being conveyed via dialogue and the emotion being conveyed via body language and expression, like why is that choice made, stuff like that.
Right. I mean, like I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't think there's a better overall medium than comics, but particularly when it comes to empathy,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and and requiring thought, both
Mm-hmm.
encouraging and requiring thought. Um, and yeah, I think like almost any great comic book you could build not just a lesson plan around, but like a significant part of your semester because like first it's the basic questions and then it's like, well, but how did they portray it? And then once you've talked about how they've portrayed it, you start talking about, okay, does how they've portrayed it influence what you think about it? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think differently now that you've broken down how they've portrayed it?
Yeah.
This is what you thought when you read it, but what did you think when you really did a close reading and started noticing the
Mm-hmm.
scenery and the pacing and the Can you tell I like comics, Chris?
I know you like comics, Dad. And I
Um,
love them too, and I love, and this is also a comic where I am I'm trying to engage with the medium in ways that I haven't before. Like I've always been very formally minded in terms of like how balloon placements are and like a lot of the stuff, but I've also been very um uh formally conservative with the types of stuff that I include. And so like I have not done thought balloons before because uh the main reason, because I think aesthetically they suck. The little clouds and the doodads, and trying to figure out like it's not a shape that I like, and it also creates a lot of opportunities for tangents with the lines between all these little angles being created by the clouds and the rest of the drawing. It's as we move towards a comics readership, especially a younger comics readership, for whom some of the comic symbols of old, like thought balloons, are less prevalent. Like, kids may still be reading Snoopy, but a lot of books, post Dark Knight Returns, where things were starting to shift towards cinematic, don't have thought balloons. And so,
Right.
how do you, does your audience immediately know that this is what it is? And so trying to figure out, well, what's my solution with that? And my solution is essentially a black background in which you see, for lack of a better term, chibis of whatever the character is thinking about. And the only character
Right.
with thought or with an internal monologue at this point is Otis, our lead kid. And
Right.
and playing with the sense of, like, can I diagram things while I am
Right.
doing that? Like, can I include these little diagrams, or these little visual asides, or these what ifs or fantasies or whatever it might be, as visual things that are clear and that come across in a way that I would not have done on previous books. And that's been a lot of fun,
Yeah.
playing with some of those structural things and formal things that I would not have done, that you really, I mean, you could theoretically do them in other mediums, but they're very well suited to comics.
Oh, they're I mean, again, like I can think of ways to do most things that comics do and other mediums, but generally not as elegantly.
Yeah.
Um, and like film can sometimes more elegantly do action, and it integrates music better, and and prose can more elegantly do thoughts,
Hmm.
but but only verbal ones.
Yeah.
I mean, something that I would love to see more of are like thought balloons that are nonverbal,
Yeah.
or the equivalent of a thought balloon, where
Yeah.
you're and you see some of it, but like I think in words, my wife thinks in pictures. Like, so a thought balloon that was just words wouldn't actually represent her thoughts.
Yeah.
You know.
And
So
I'm
yeah.
gonna, and there's some aspects too that I think, not just thoughts but also in discussion. So, from
Yeah.
the second book onward, there's going to be a lot of learning how to fight, learning how to sword fight stuff,
Right.
because, again, like, drawing from influence, like, something that I absolutely loved when I was a kid was the learning to fight sections of kung fu and samurai movies. Like,
Okay.
I loved the training sequences, and not just montages, but where you see, like, this is how you do a specific move, or this is how you counter this specific thing that seems uncounterable, and you work at it, and then
Right.
hopefully you see that manifest in the final acts, like, where it's all coming together. And so, like, when it's sort of hard to have a, well, this is how you do sword fighting in a comic with a discussion, where you're not suddenly spending 9 panels showing a move. But if you can have a character talking and show a tiny diagram, like just a literal
Right.
diagram behind the character as they're talking,
Right.
that can create that context that I think can be helpful. And then also, providing additional context for how it's going to work in a fight scene, because there's a, a fantasy novelist who Sebastian de Castell, who did a series that I love called The Greatcoats, and something that he does really well in that story, is that he'll have a fight scene and he'll set up sort of the mechanics of the fight scene, and then there will be additional context during that fight scene that helps to suggest how, or that gives you a frame for how it ends. So either a training thing or a history or something about how the ground is, or something where it does it. And Kyle did something similar. Kyle Starks in Karate Prom, where
Right.
there's a sequence that I love, which is they get knocked into a pool, and or two of the characters are they tackle each other and land in a pool. And earlier, one of the characters has discussed going to this pool with her grandmom and doing, and practicing there. And so in the middle of this fight scene, it creates this flashback to her training in the pool, and using the water as resistance to punches and things like that, that then contextualizes the rest of the fight scene. And I really love, like, I've never used flashbacks before this book either. And I really love this notion of creating immediate flashbacks that provide a context for how things are going to happen, rather than trying to necessarily do a long game setup for that flashback earlier in the book. Because I think that, especially again with this serialized read, um, you're revisiting these characters, once a week. Like, you're not necessarily. I can be real clever and mention something in an aside 9 weeks ahead of time, and I probably will. But I'm also going to double down on that flashback context in order to create an immediacy whenever it comes into play, that I think works better in serialization than having to constantly think about it previously on.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the book. So I'm
Thank you
kind
so
of
much, Dad. I
kind of
appreciate it.
kind of thinking of stuff like as you're saying it, that I'm like, okay, that, yeah. Um mm, I am running out of questions, and you have work to do, I'm certain. So I'm going to roll into closing questions.
Yes.
Unless you have specific stuff that you don't feel like you've gotten out yet.
Okay.
Do you have stuff that you want to add that we haven't hit on?
No, I think that's
Okay.
fine.
Then
I'm
we'll
happy
then we'll
to
hit
delve into
then
it.
we'll
Yeah.
then we'll hit closing questions.
Okay.
Um, my first one is a new one. You haven't had to answer it before. Um, I am a little less than 5 years into doing this podcast, and
Hmm.
I feel like I've entered the twilight zone. Um, the
In
the
what way?
ways the ways in which um the experiences I get to have in my life are ones that if you told 15-year-old me or even 35-year-old me, I was going to get up and spend like an hour and a half on a Zoom call with Chris Schweizer on a Thursday morning, or hang out with so and so, or get to run panels at C2E2, or
Hmm.
just so many things that I never imagined would be part of my life that are just amazingly cool.
Yeah.
But I've also found that that's definitely true of everybody in comics, and seemingly true of almost anybody in the arts, period, that they
Hmm.
wind up living lives just full of these little pinch me moments where they're like, even looking back years later, they're like, was that really me in that
Yeah.
room, or doing that, or saying that, or listening to that, or whatever? So I started collecting those experiences. Give me one of your surreal, pinch me, oh my God, that was Chris Schweizer that got to do that moments.
Oh man. I mean, one that has become more regular but never loses its magic is that, because of, I think, doing the historical stuff and being involved in different academic communities and libraries and museums and colleges and stuff along those lines, I have been incredibly lucky in that I've had the opportunity to uh, go behind the scenes at a number of museums, to go into the vaults and to, uh, in some instances, handle armor or weapons or things like that that are, hundreds of years old, in order to better understand the mechanics of them. Recently, did that in, you're in Chicago, right?
I am.
I was at the Art Institute, and I was able to go and look at, how basically the upper vambrace works, because I could not
Okay.
figure that out in the when you get into the early 16th century, like everything locks in to the point that it's almost like a spacesuit. Like there's no
Right.
gaps with mail. There's no, I mean, it's in, and uh, being able to look at and to move it around and see, oh, okay, well, this flange does this, and this connects here, and this connects here, like, is going to make it to where I will be able to draw that better should I need to draw
Right.
that.
Right.
Being able to, pick up a rapier and move it around and feel like, well, it's, the balance of it, the lightness of it, it's made different ways, so it's dramatically different than anything you're going to find in a reproduction, and it feels different, and that's going to affect
Right.
how I draw it being used. But
Right.
but that is stuff that absolutely never loses its sheen to me. Like being able to get, like, since I was a kid, like I've loved, my dad worked at a college, and, he worked at he was at an opera company and things like that. And so being by myself in an area that has neat stuff, and or getting to be, in the back of something, or getting to dig through the archives or through the costumes, like any of that stuff, like is all that's just always a treat. And I enjoy that as much as I enjoy, like, walking around in the woods and exploring places and things along those lines. And so getting to do that kind of frequently on the scale, I say frequently, like, once every year or so, on the scale that I get to do it, and with the material that I get to do it with, is absolutely staggering to me, and it is never something that I take for granted. It's something that is just absolutely wild that this gets to be a part of my life.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. And that's exactly the type of story that I've been looking for. And I get all variations of them. I love this
Yeah.
question. That's why it's become a regular one. The closing question that you've gotten many times before,
Mhm.
but I've forgotten your answers. So like
That's okay.
you can probably get away with giving me the same one unless
Uh,
you say it and it immediately reminds me, oh no, you said that last time.
yeah.
Um, Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced, and you'd really like them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
Hmm. There is a comic that I really like a lot that is, uh, maybe 5 years old.
Okay.
And there is an English edition out from, I think, oh shoot, who's the British publisher that does stuff? I'm gonna look it up and make sure. I think it's a British publisher that has US distribution.
I know you gave me a
Uh,
French book before, so
Self-Made Hero, that's it.
yeah,
Uh,
Self-Made Hero does some great stuff.
it's The Smell of Starving Boys. Have I
Ah,
mentioned that one?
this is not one that
This is a
you.
new one. Okay, so this is Frederick Peters is the illustrator, and
I know
Lu
some
Hui
Peters.
Lu Hui Fang is the writer. And it is a weird, meditative, um, uh, Western that kind of feels it's. I'm sure there is some Cormac McCarthy influence on it. Visually, I'm struck by the colors because they're beautiful, and they are done
Yeah.
better than I could do, but they are largely using a palette that I made for myself. Like there are
Yeah, I was
colors that
about
I'm
to
like,
say that
oh, I use these colors a lot.
I could see how this could be a major influence on your colors because it
It's
does. It's got
well, it's not, but it should be. I should learn from it.
well,
But
okay,
it's
then it
just
will that where it could one day be a major influence on your covers. You're not supposed to tell people that
it
you don't know stuff,
it
Chris.
will down the road, but it's the aesthetically to me it looks as if it's Craig Thompson inking Guy Davis
Okay.
with really great colors. And the story itself is lovely. Like it's really interesting. It's talking about um, the role of money and exploration, the role of gender, the role of how second chances work, how second chances can be dictated by circumstance and by finance. And there's this weird, creepy, corpse-like cowboy bounty hunter sort of following them around, and it's just this. It's a beautifully made book. It's very different from what I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting something so, for lack of a better word, art house in terms of story and structure, but it's really something. It is, I think, readily available in the U.S.
It is
And I like it a lot. I've shared it
both
with a few
both
friends.
physically and digitally,
Yes.
and I realized why Frederick Peters hit my head. Um, the the book that Matt Rosenberg will recommend up and down is called Ama, AAMA. It's also from Self-Made Hero and also Frederick Peters.
Oh, I don't
It's
know
a
that one,
four-book
but
series. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I will check it out. Well, I mean, really, Peters is really fantastic. Oh, I have seen that. I haven't read it. I do know that one, but
Yeah.
I have not read it. Um,
Lupus
but
is supposed to be quite good too. I haven't read that yet.
yeah, well, I will check it out. Yeah, the night scenes. If you scroll through the images, like the night scenes use this red and blue that I use a lot,
Right.
which is not actually a red. It's actually like an orange pink with a red that is really bright, but when it's printed with black line art, like it really pops as a red. Um, but but I'm like I've not ever seen like I color a very specific way, and I don't usually see those types of colors in another book. And like I said, this one uses the types of colors that I use, but does it much better. So I should learn from it. Because it's gorgeous.
I no, it is definitely immediately very much on my list.
Yeah,
As anytime you recommend a book, it is. I think the last one was can't remember what it was
it
exactly,
might
but
have
it
been Esteban. I love Esteban, which is
yeah, no, you definitely did
Matthew Bonham.
Esteban. You definitely did Esteban. I feel like there was another one where it was some sort of swashbuckling type thing that was um also a European book. Because and
I'm a sucker for the Euro swashbucklers, so I'm not surprised.
yeah, well, I mean, it shows in your art in the best ways. Um, I mean, you're definitely most influenced by American comics, but you'll still take more time for the space in between action than a lot of American cartoonists are comfortable with.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's a distinctly European comic thing, where
Yeah,
where will they'll stop to breathe,
yeah.
the
Well,
stuff that
and I'm reading more manga than I used to as well.
okay.
Especially, I mean, and it's not a recommend because it's hard to find people who haven't read him or aren't reading him who read any manga. Who's Naoki Urasawa, and
Oh
one
yeah,
of the things
so
that I
good.
really love, aside from just the gorgeous art and the great storytelling and the characters and everything about it, I love. But something that I have gotten more comfortable with is I feel like I can, if I've got a conversation heavy scene, I can have the same face roughly from the same angle more than once and not feel bad about it.
Right.
Because Urasawa does that and it looks great and I
Hmm.
don't mind. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't have to come up with a clever shot for everything. And sometimes it'll be, yeah, you cut to somebody's hand holding a thing. You do. There are tons of ways to make it more engaging, but sometimes the simplicity of just getting the dialogue across with the characters' expressions
Well,
and
and
things
I
like it
mean,
doesn't have to be a big thing.
and depending on like the scenario, um, it can be very expressive.
Yeah,
Like if you've got two people sitting at a diner booth, it makes sense to have roughly the same face going back and forth in a conversation because part of being in a diner talking with a friend is just the comfort of it doesn't necessarily change. It's not,
yeah,
the change might be the amount of coffee in the cup, not not anything else.
yeah.
Um, and that's another thing that can be done pretty well in comics. Is just like the different ways that you can express the passage of time or lack of passage of time are really nearly infinite. Um,
Hmm.
and you've you're one of the masters of that.
Well, I
I've
really
appreciated
appreciate
that,
that. Thank you, Ted.
and I mean that was something I noticed way back in Sidekicks, which I think was the
Mhm.
first thing that I read of yours. But then when I went back into Krogan's and whatnot, you're really good at pacing and keeping the reader in the story while at the same time allowing them to speed up and slow down and understand the time of the story, not just the time that it takes them to read it. Which is it's a trick that it's hard to pin down how you do it.
Yeah,
I mean, every once in a while I'll see something and I'll figure out like I figured out finally what makes Jesse Lonergan's massive number of panels for one picture so valuable, and that's that every panel represents a beat. So even if it's one picture, when it's
hmm,
split into 16 panels, it's telling you to spend like
take your time.
16
Yeah,
with
yep,
it. It's forcing you to stop and look at the page in a way that you wouldn't have if you didn't have to fill in the space in the gutters of
yes,
what's all one picture.
yeah,
Um, but that's another thing about comics. There's so many things that are done that like it takes that third, fourth reading to go, oh, that's why I felt this.
yeah. That is the hope.
So Chris, it is always, always a pleasure. Um, Hopefully I'll get to see you again soon. It's always nice to see you in person, hang out, that sort of thing. And for 22 panels, this has been Chris Schweizer, and we will see you after the next page.